All right, everybody, welcome to the Young Turks. Ben Mankiewicz here for Cenk. Joining us now on the program from Democrats.com, it's Bob Fertik. Bob, how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm well. Thanks for holding on for us there. I'm going to spend a lot of the show today. It's good that you're the first guest today talking about Democrats and our ads. And you have one that I think that could be seen by, I wish would be seen by a number of Democrats, and the idea taken. But this is a new ad that you guys have put out at Democrats.com that points out essentially what ultimately will be the hypocrisy of Republicans complaining about foreign donations. But you don't point out the hypocrisy, you just hit these guys over the head with the fact that that money is pouring into the Chamber of Commerce and Karl Rove's group could be pouring in from foreign governments, right?
Well, that's right. The ad talks about the national security threat that would be represented by money coming in from Ahmadinejad in Iran, or from Hu Jintao in China, or from the Saudi king. We have no idea what foreign money is pouring in, and it could be coming in from our adversaries who have their agendas which are contrary to the American national interest.
Well, we do have some numbers about what the Chamber of Commerce is spending, what Karl Rove's Crossroads group is spending here at the end of the campaign, how much money we're expected to get spent on Republican candidates. But I tell you what, before we go a lot further, let's take a look at your ad from Democrats.com, and I want to know also who does your voiceover work, because it's good stuff. Here's the ad.
This man can spend millions to buy our Congress. This man can spend billions to elect senators who will send our jobs to China. This man can spend trillions to buy our next president. And it's all legal because 5 Supreme Court judges just gave foreign corporations the right to buy our elections. Those 5 judges were wrong, and we need strict new laws to keep America safe.
Democrats.com is responsible for the content of this advertisement.
That's good stuff, Bob. That hits them hard. It's incredibly ominous. I feel threatened. I'm scared for my family. I feel like Mahmoud Ahmadinejad is going to come from Iran and buy my local state senator off. Let's before I get into the ad. So we know that the Chamber of Commerce can now spend unlimited amounts of money following the Citizens United Supreme Court ruling. Without ever disclosing who its donors are, expected to spend $75 million, essentially, pretty much exclusively on Republican candidates, right? Or do we know other information about that?
Oh, there are a couple of House candidates, the Democrats, that they're supporting. 2 out of 22. Right.
Okay. So it's overwhelmingly on Republican candidates, and we know that Karl Rove's group and the Chamber expected in these last couple of weeks to have a $50 million blitz. So we're talking about serious money raised without ever having to reveal where this money has come from. So do you feel legitimately like this is a serious threat of foreign money buying off, paying, sort of essentially buying American elections? Or do you think this is just an opportunity to sort of point out the dangers in the Supreme Court ruling?
The point is that we don't know. So, we know there are countries out there that would rather buy our politicians than have to fight our country and fight our military. We just have no way of knowing. That's why this is so dangerous. I mean, there shouldn't be any debate. We fought a war of independence so that we would not be controlled by foreigners. We fought, how many wars since then to preserve our freedom and to just have it sold to the highest bidder, to have our government sold to the highest bidder, whether it's a corporation here, whether it's a corporation abroad, or whether it's a foreign government. I mean, there should not be any debate. And in fact, if you look at the polls, it's 80-10 in opposition to this idea of selling to the highest bidder.
I know. I always like that. I'm curious who the 10 are. It's like the
right.
It's like the limited. It's like 11% of Democrats support George Bush, and I'm like, so you're saying 1 out of 9 Democrats think this guy's doing a great? I never meet these people, so yeah, it's hard to imagine who would think that it would be a good idea. Where is your ad airing?
We're doing it on the internet. There's some places like YouTube where you can buy ads. So we're getting it out there. So since we don't have any corporate funding, we can't put it on commercial TV, and probably there isn't any ad space available since these right-wing groups are buying up every available second.
Did you feel at any point like you had to tone the ad down? Was there ever a moment where you thought, oh, this is too much over the top, it's too ominous, it's too scary?
Well, this is a rhetorical climate we're in with Glenn Beck, with Sean Hannity, with Bill O'Reilly, where nuance isn't really valued these days. So if you want people to take notice, there's no point in being wishy-washy. If you want people to notice, you got to take a stand.
No, I lean toward agreeing with you. So do we know who's given money to American Crossroads and to the Chamber of Commerce? Do we know where they're raising their money?
Well, the Chamber, we know, has one fund that all of the U.S. corporations and foreign corporations put their money into. The Think Progress has been able to trace nearly $1 million that's come in from foreign corporations, mostly, by the way, corporations that advertise that they are outsourcers of American jobs. These are companies in India and elsewhere that advertise that they want to take jobs out of the U.S. So that's most of the first $1 million that we know about.
I live in California, and I think by far the most effective ad that Jerry Brown has run that Barbara Boxer has run against Carly Fiorina, is pointing out that Fiorina took more than $100 million from HP while jobs were being sent overseas, and there were cutbacks, and that she knows the value of shipping jobs overseas. And I don't know ultimately how fair the ad is, but I don't care because I know their ads aren't fair. And it's such an effective ad. It's so obvious, and I'm curious why Democrats around the country aren't finding a way to run similar ads.
Well, I think they are. I think the president has, made this an issue, talked about foreign companies. The job aspect of it is very powerful, as you say, and it's something that Democratic candidates really should use because it's really an issue. I mean, the Chamber of Commerce, I'm just reading, they hold seminars on how to outsource jobs. They want American unemployment to be high because then the big corporations that belong to the Chamber can hire their next labor workers for less. They want to increase unemployment, drive down the cost of labor to increase their profits. I mean, it's a really disastrous economic set of incentives, and people ought to be aware of it.
Well, Bob, I know that you obviously know better than I about which Democrats are running which ads where, but as far as an overall theme, it has not been one that Democrats have lashed onto terribly effectively this election cycle. That, as simple as, for years, Republicans are comfortable portraying Democrats as unwilling to defend your family against foreign aggression. And that, okay, fine, vote for a Democrat, but you might die and your children might die. That's essentially been their theme. And I'm sure there are Democrats running ads about that Republicans support the idea that 5 Republican Supreme Court justice appointed, 5 justices appointed by Republican presidents, support a law that says that corporations can give whatever they want to companies and they want to ship your jobs overseas. And I just think as a theme, that certainly hasn't penetrated.
Oh, absolutely. I completely agree. And that's why we made this and a couple other ads. Is we want to show the Democratic establishment how to play offense. The only game that Democrats in Washington seem to understand is defense.
Yeah,
and the best defense is a good offense.
Yeah, I agree. The best defense is a good offense, and I got news for you. We don't even play defense all that well. We hire a big name defensive coordinator, but we're like in the middle of the league. It's not like we're the 1985 Bears on defense. So let me ask you quickly then, Bob. You talk, in addition to wanting obviously Citizens United to be overturned, you also you'd like to have a constitutional amendment to keep all corporate money out of American politics. That seems a bit pie in the sky. But you also support the Shareholder Protection Act, and that demanding that public shareholders approve all corporate campaign spending. Is that something that you think will have sort of at any point legislative legs?
Yes, we got very close to passing that before Congress went home. In the House, Barney Frank supports it. It has to go through his committee. He's a very strong supporter. In the Senate, the leadership supports it. I think we had a really good example this week when Rupert Murdoch's News Corp had a shareholder meeting, and the shareholders were complaining about Rupert Murdoch giving $1 million of corporate money to the Republican Governors Association. It's not Rupert Murdoch's money to play with. That money belongs to the shareholders. They invested their money not for politics. They invested their money to get a return on their investment. And how dare Rupert Murdoch decide that he likes some guy and he's going to give him $1 million?
Well, I know Rupert Murdoch's a big fan of the show, and so I'm sure he heard that. Why does that relate real quick then? Just to would that logic also hold, though, that then the same would apply to union members and having their union money spent on for political purposes?
Well, unions have PACs, and their members have to donate to the PACs. So it's a voluntary act. I don't know if you saw the steelworker president on the Ed Show this week talking about each member makes an individual decision. They can track it all. They have to report all their contributions. It's a PAC. It's it's disclosed, fully disclosed.
Yeah, no, for the PAC donations, but it's a long-standing, obviously, debate in American politics and in American union politics about whether dues can be used for political purposes, and it's been a heated argument for, as you know, for decades here. But it would seem to me that if you supported the shareholder approving of all corporate spending, you could make the same argument. By the way, it's a trade-off I think I'd be prepared to make. I think we come out ahead on that deal.
Well, there's a lot more layers of democracy in a union, right? The union gets a vote. The shareholders have very little say over corporate management. They can engage in proxy fights over the board of directors, but they can't pick the CEO. But in the unions, the president is elected, and all the officers are elected. And if they stray from the will of their union members, they'll be defeated, especially over supporting some candidates that were totally opposed by the members. But Rupert Murdoch can give 100% of his money to the Republicans, and the shareholders don't have. And he said so. He was asked, should the shareholders have any say in this? And he said no. Well, it's not Rupert Murdoch's money, and he can't be a dictator, and he is. Whereas a union president can never have that much power.
Real quick, couple of final questions here, Bob. What's the you didn't in the ad? The ad doesn't mention Republicans at all. I'm just curious how the sort of creative process went regarding that.
Well, we wanted to talk about the money. We wanted to talk about the laws that need to be passed. We don't have a PAC, so we're not running this as a political attack ad on any candidate.
Yeah, but come on. And then what about? I just was curious. Is the thing I mentioned it in one question, but you look at those Supreme Court justices. Do you feel like, especially if the ad did get any television airtime, whether there'd be any benefit to saying then 5 Supreme Court justices, all appointed by Republican presidents? That seemed kind of fun. And again, I'm not involved in your creative process, nor should I. But that just occurred to me as I was watching it, like the 3rd time through.
Well, a lot of people remember that in the year 2005, Republican Supreme Court justices chose George Bush to be the president by throwing out 175,000 votes that were never counted in Florida. So, people understand that we have the most right-wing Supreme Court ever, and they don't try to get one Democrat to join them. They just cram down, Republicans like to talk about cram down. They cram down these 5-4 right-wing decisions, including Citizens United. Now, to make things worse, Clarence Thomas's wife, Virginia Thomas, runs one of these slush funds.
Yeah,
Can you imagine if Ruth Bader Ginsburg's husband was out there raising millions of dollars?
I don't think Sean Hannity would even bring that up, Bob. It would just, I don't think it would be relevant. All right, well, I'm not sure that people understand just how conservative the court is. I'm not sure I agree with you on that. But the ad's great, and it's powerful, and it comes over the top in a good way. So, Bob, thanks for joining us.
My pleasure. Thank you.
And you can check out the ad at Democrats.com, where Bob is the co-founder.